Welcome to the Planning for Life podcast with certified financial planner professional Russell Jacobs and financial life advisor Carl Coolidge. Carl and Russell will share creative strategies and ideas for overcoming challenges in your personal and financial life. Inevitably, life happens, and we will empower you to reach your destination. Thanks for joining us. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to another podcast with Russell Jacobs. You know, we think it's very, very important for you to have as much education, ammunition, and knowledge on what you should do when you are about to work with a financial services professional. And so I'm going to walk Russell Jacobs today through a bunch of questions that we feel are very important for you to ask somebody who you plan on hiring as a financial advisor. So Russell, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here.
So the fun part we're going to do today is we're going to have you actually answer these questions as if a client or a prospect were asking you, or a person in the general public. But then I also want you to take a moment to explain why these are such pertinent questions for you to ask somebody who's going to be your financial advisor. Is that okay?
That makes sense.
All right.
Yes.
All right. The first question is, why are you an advisor?
Well, that's for me an easy one. Carl and I actually, we're advisors because we love the work that we do, because it's very rewarding professionally and personally to see the light bulb come on when people understand their plan or their situation for the first time, and to know that they're going to be okay no matter what happens. You know, should they have a tragic death, they'll be protected by life insurance, hurt or sick, disability insurance, college. They've got 529s or other appropriate savings. And then what most people don't do, which is retire comfortably because they don't plan, they'll be able to be okay in retirement. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's something that I personally grew into because, frankly, when I came into this business, I wasn't sure what I wanted to be when I grew up, so to speak. I graduated from college, went to work with my dad because I could. And so I thought I would do that a little while and then find whatever my true passion was. But as I really got into the business and began to meet and know people and have some modicum of success, I really began to enjoy it. And then through the young life journey, getting married, having children, working with Carl, collaborating, and building the rich planning experience and the secure retirement planning processes where we could actually take people through an organized experience to blueprint where they are and know what they needed to do, and to get out of health insurance, which we both hated, and move into this other business where you could actually change lives. It just became a very rewarding experience that I'm quite passionate about. And I think that's why it's a pertinent question, because when you're going to be hitching your wagon, if you will, your life's work to an advisor, you want to know that advisor, A, is credible, meaning they have appropriate professional designations and experience, or B, if they don't have experience, it's because you want to be able to work with young people that they're affiliated or tied in with a team that does. And you want them to be passionate about you and the mission to get you what you need and when you need it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are in the field just because they're going through the motions. And that's definitely not us.
Well, and I think that is, if you're not hearing that level of passion, the succinct story that Russell just told, when you do ask an advisor that question, you need to find somebody who is going to share that passion, that level of detail, and that kind of historical precedent for why they do what they do, which is the next question, which is, what do you do exactly? I love this question because I don't really know too many financial advisors who can truly answer this succinctly, but you guys can.
Yeah, I think we can. And one other thing, Matt, before I answer that question, I'd say that's pertinent to why are you an advisor is also how many firms have you been with? Because we do see what I call advisor hopping, where they move from firm to firm. And that's typically not a good situation. And certainly there can be a reason to move one or perhaps two times at the most, but usually one. After that, they're not necessarily moving for good reason. Now back to your second question, you know, what do we do exactly? I think if you kind of envision a personal trainer and what a personal trainer does for their client who engages them to help them work out. We bring accountability, discipline, and action plan. In the case of the fitness personal trainer, it's a workout regimen. In our case, it's a workout regimen for yourself monetarily and organizationally from a planning documents, wills, trusts, all of those type things, communicating effectively with your family. But all those parallels of the personal fitness trainer and the personal financial trainer, if you will, I think are appropriate. So what do? We help people get organized so they can create a blueprint of where they are and a baseline of understanding where they are vis-a-vis where they're trying to get to or go. And then we bring the accountability, discipline, and execution and follow through in an organized manner to make sure they actually accomplish what it is they said they want to accomplish.
This next question seems to be kind of a loaded question because I think a lot of advisors will say anybody, but who do you do it for? So let's have you answer that question. But why is that such a pertinent question?
Well, I think that people would like to work with someone they know is familiar with their world and life experience. So doctors would like to work with financial planners who work with and are familiar with doctors, dentists, manufacturers, business owners, you fill in the blank. And, the question, who do you do it for is relevant, but we tend to have kind of an open architecture firm, meaning that if you're serious about financial planning and taking care of your business as it relates to your future and your family, then we are willing to work with you. So we've built our planning process and our planning structure around working with anyone who's willing to commit to the process. So, and that really came from my father because he didn't really want us to be just another quote unquote wealth advisory firm only working with people who had a lot of money. So there's nothing wrong with that. And we do that very well and successfully. But if you're serious about planning, then we're going to be serious about you and trying to help you get a leg up on life and your financial success. So we have widows, we have divorced people, we have business owners of all stripes, and a lot of dentists, doctors, and you just name it. We don't have the luxury of living in New York or Atlanta or LA where there are tons of any particular one stripe of individual. So what we've done is built a process that works for anyone who's serious about it. And we use Zoom conferencing. So we have clients kind of all over the Southeast as well as locally. Really, our criteria is you have to be serious about it and willing to execute and be willing to accept accountability because we're going to bring what I call our financial planning drill sergeant into play. And you have authorized us to stay behind it until it gets done because that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of buzz out there, Russell, about products and selling products. That's a question I think should be asked, but a lot of the negative press surrounding this is really kind of trumped up, isn't it?
Well, I think it is, but not without reason. There's nothing wrong to me with product per se, because really nothing in life happens without something getting bought or sold. But the key is understanding why you're buying that product, whatever it is, whether it's investment or insurance protection, or any product for that matter. Philosophically, I believe that yes and no to a product are both the right answer. Just educate yourself to the point that you feel comfortable making a decision and then don't procrastinate. So to me, procrastination is really the key issue. But the reason there's all that bad context out there about product is because there's so many investment and insurance people who unfortunately sell product the wrong way, where it's more about them than the person buying it. And that's where it gets bad. And we've seen enough. I mean, I've been doing this 34 years and Carl, 22, and we've seen a lot of inappropriate product purchases out there. And the people trusted someone who in some cases they knew, in some cases they didn't know as well. But, and then a lot of these things, you're stuck with them for a while because of the nature of the product. So it's really not the product, it's the need, and understanding that that product helps you solve a problem, achieve a need or goal, and is suitable for you based on your time horizon, risk tolerance, and budget. It all has to be suitable. And that's the important part of doing a fiduciary financial plan, where you wouldn't think someone had to have a rule to do what's best for you. But brokerage firms are subject to a suitability standard. CFPs and people doing fiduciary financial planning have to act in your best interest. So it's just about understanding. And we also believe philosophically, if we can't explain something where you understand it, don't do it. Wait until you have that light bulb moment where the light bulb turns on. And please be frank with us that you don't understand it. And if we have to do it 10 times or go out a different way, we will, because really it should be all about you. And if you get that sense that it's not all about you, hit the door.
Yeah. Well, you've answered a couple of the other questions. So, you just really touched on this whole idea of what a fiduciary is. So I'm not even going to ask you that question today. But you did touch on this next question, which is, I think, right along the lines of products, because there seems to be a race to the bottom of fees, finding discount brokers and blah, 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 blah out there. But when somebody asks you, and please also explain why it's so important to ask the question, how do you get paid?
Yes. Well, I think, first of all, if you're the client, you should not be embarrassed or scared of asking that question. And how the advisor sitting across from you or next to you responds will tell you a lot. Some people don't care if they have that confidence that they're being taken care of, but it's certainly within your purview to ask that question. And I think the fact is, there's nothing wrong with the product being placed, because people need life insurance, they need disability insurance, they need 529 plans, they need investments in a managed and proper asset allocation. And when you have this race to the bottom of fees that you're talking about, you ultimately aren't going to necessarily have that advisor sitting across the table from you, bringing what I was talking about earlier: accountability, organization, discipline, and execution, and then review and update on a regular basis. And the fact is, all the products that we deal with are commoditized, Matt. The problem is Americans lack discipline, and they always have, and they always will. And so there's a very small community of people, percentage-wise, who actually get things done and maybe have the wherewithal and knowledge to do it themselves. But most of us are time challenged, and even if we make a lot of money, that doesn't mean we know a lot about financial things. And if you don't have time and you're making decisions about things that you don't really know much about, that's a perfect recipe for a bad decision. The people are notorious for that. So it's not really about the lowest fee. It's about an appropriate fee being paid, and understanding what you, the client, are receiving for that fee, and then seeing on an ongoing basis that you are receiving that and you feel good about it. And the way we're structured, our financial planning fees are paid annually. They tend to trend down over time because most of the work's on the front end. And none of the products we use on the investment side have any front or back end charges. So you're never locked in. Now, we do use life insurance and annuities appropriately, and some of those do have back end charges that go away over time, but those are all discussed. And it really is about, does the product meet your long term objective? You have to have the products. It's just they have to be utilized appropriately and reviewed and updated on a regular basis.
All right. Let's talk about designations. You happen to have a CFP. Your partner has AIF. There are lots of alphabet soup after the name. What do they mean? And when you ask a question to an advisor, what is the right question? What sort of advanced designations do you have? You're in the biz, so let's talk about that. What question should they ask, and why is that so important?
Well, I think, part of the thing about designation or designations, in the case of Carl and myself, is it just shows commitment to your craft. Just like a doctor who's board certified, I wouldn't go as far as to say this is that difficult. But we use money managers for our clients who have CFAs. That's Chartered Financial Analyst, and it's the highest designation in that space. I'm a CFP, which is Certified Financial Planner Professional. That's the most recognized designation in our space, and it's a very difficult designation to get. I've had mine for 20 years now, so it used to be a pencil and paper exam. I don't believe it is anymore, but it was a day and a half test, 10 hours, and nobody really wanted to do that. And that was after 6 other individual parts. And I have a CHFC, which is Chartered Financial Consultant, and a CLU, which is Chartered Life Underwriter as well. So those are designations more in the risk management space. Now, Carl, on the other hand, is an AIF, accredited investment fiduciary, and CKP, which is I always mess this one up, but like certified retirement plan counselor. He was one of the first couple hundred people to get that CKP designation in the country. But again, I've tended to have my designations on the financial planning side. He has his on the retirement planning side. AIF is accredited investment fiduciary. So it means we're operating in a fiduciary capacity on that side. But really, the designations mean you're committed to your craft. You're willing to take yourself beyond the level of just basic education to get a license, which is not much. And then you also are agreeing to ongoing continuing education commitment that's typically notably more than, again, the minimal state requirement. And in the case of the CFP and the AIF, you're agreeing to operate in a fiduciary manner, which, as we said earlier, means we are required to act in your best interest. So that's the difference between us and the people that don't want to spend the time or the effort or aren't concerned about that. And it helps us differentiate ourselves somewhat from the field of advisor competitors, although, that continues to be an issue where people don't really do their due diligence to understand that those designations and experience do make a big difference in who you're engaging.
Well, the next question is kind of a fun one, but I think that it's important to ask. One, because your answer is fantastic, and secondly, because I think it shows something about the advisor. Are you a dog or a cat person?
Yeah, so we would be, or I would be, both. We happen to have a decent sized yard, so we actually are. I'm a dog and a cat person because we have 2 dogs and 4 cats. So, and they're indoor, outdoor, so they're kind of in and out of the house. And we enjoy our pets, and they're kind of like my wife Cindy and I. They're each different, and they're independent and autonomous, but they love to hang out. So, and we've always, ever since we met, meaning Cindy and myself, back in 1987, we've always had at least 1 dog or 1 cat, and typically more over the last several years.
Well, and I know Carl has a Great Dane, but why is it important?
Yes. Yeah.
Why is it important to ask a question like that, though?
Well, you kind of get a feel for the person, I guess. Like my wife Cindy would say, she can't understand how someone doesn't want a pet. Talk about unconditional love. A pet is going to love you more than your child because they love you every day and never get mad at you. Don't get me wrong. We love our kids more than our pets, but, pets give you unconditional love. And frankly, they're completely dependent on you since you're feeding them and caring for them and so forth. It just typically, I guess, would mean from a people standpoint that you tend to be, a more gregarious person who, is likable and loving and cares about things more than themselves.
Yeah. Well, we don't have too much time left, so I'm going to ask you 2 more quick questions, and these are very client-focused questions. So as the person who's coming in to talk to and ask the advisor these questions, I like the idea of asking, what does the advisor want from me? So let's talk about that real quick. Ask if somebody says to you, Russell, how can I be an engaged client? why is that such a great thing for you to hear, number one? And number two, why is that such a good question?
Well, because we don't really want to just tell someone what to do. It is a collaboration. We call it collaborative financial planning. So, what we look for in a client is a client who's going to be seriously engaged, provide us good, accurate data in a timely manner, and is willing to share the unvarnished truth about how they're receiving information and enjoying or finding value in the process, because we're going to share the unvarnished truth with them. I mean, we want their candid feedback, we want their engagement, and we want them to share with us how often they'd like us to communicate with them, and because how we communicate with the client is really custom built based on how often they feel the need to receive information. In some cases, we have to drag people in kicking and screaming to do an annual review. In other cases, we're in communication with them a number of times per month and everywhere in between. And we want them to not just want a cookie cutter solution, but to also appreciate the work we do for them. Because that is, we talked about this earlier, we love to see these plans come together. And, we catalog the plans year after year, so we can go back 10 years now and see where these clients were vis-a-vis where they are now. And it's so rewarding to see that growth. And now we understand that we have been helped by a fabulous long-running bull market, and there will always be ups and downs. But when you have a process and a plan, you do your plan, and then life happens and you update and adjust your plan. But so many people spend more time planning their 2-week vacation than they do their potential 30 years in retirement, or God forbid, if some tragedy strikes their family along the way. So I think just that client engagement and serious interest and commitment to the endeavor.
And you just really answered the last question I was going to ask you, but I want to ask the question again, which is, what do you need from me? Now, you're talking about you want an engaged client, but when a client asks you, what do you need from me? What sort of response would you have? And again, why is that such a good question?
I want to know why you're here and what you want and when you want it. And then we're going to show you what it takes to get it. And then you can decide if you are willing to pay that price or not, because anything worthwhile is not free. And by that, I mean, you may have to sacrifice some today because you're going to set aside dollars for tomorrow. So really, I want to understand what's your why. And then we're going to figure out the best way to help you get it and keep it. Because really, we all work because we want sustainable retirement income, and we don't want to run out of money before we die. And if we can live the life we want and leave a legacy for our kids, grandkids, or charities, we'd like to be able to do that too. But so many people are just running through life without stopping to work on their future and frankly, and even enjoy the now. And that's what we want to help them do, because if we're able to capture that client and get a plan together for them where they understand where they are vis-a-vis where they're trying to go, they can really relax and enjoy the journey a lot more, because they know they're good. And if something happens, their family will be incredibly sad, but they won't be bankrupt and sad.
Yeah. Russell, thank you very much for walking through these questions today. I learned a lot. I know our listeners are going to learn a lot. And it's just nice to have somebody who is very open and transparent and will answer these tough questions and also tell you why it's so important to have this dialogue. So thanks for your time today.
You're welcome, Matt. Always a pleasure. I look forward to speaking to you next time.
Now, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you click that subscribe now button below. And I'm sure you know somebody who is about to meet with a financial planner, a financial advisor. You know what? You should send them this podcast, because it really gives them the right ammunition, the right tools to make sure that they're making the right decision. So for everybody at Jacobs and Coolidge and Company, this is Matt Halloran, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.
The content is developed from sources believed to be providing accurate information. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult legal or tax professionals for specific information regarding your individual situation. The opinions expressed and material provided are for general information and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. Russell C. Jacobs III, Carl B. Coolidge, James Jacobs, and William Schwartz are registered representatives of and offers securities, investment advisory, and financial planning services through MML Investor Services, LLC, member SIPC, Supervisory Office, Jacksonville, Florida. Jacobs, Coolidge & Company, LLC is not a subsidiary or affiliate of MML Investor Services, LLC, or its affiliated companies.